Hello and welcome to what is a short working week, so we're happy about that. It's Tuesday and this is the morning show with me, Martin King. Coming up today, at 8 years of age, Daniel Coughlan's head and hands started to jerk. A year later, he was diagnosed with Tourette's.
Tourette's is a spectrum disorder, which means it can go from very mild tics that you may not even notice in somebody to very extreme where people are shouting words, and the one that's mostly in the media is people shouting swear words, which is about 10 to 12% of the world's population with Tourette's.
We'll be chatting to Daniel and his mum Tracy about coping with such a condition. Also, with over 1 million nesting in Ireland each year, why do most of us not know the willow warbler? Niall Hatch will be explaining about this and other birds to spot in the summer months. And they currently only exist in Dublin Zoo, but once the wolf was native to Ireland. We'll be finding out about the history of the creature on these shores. But first today, as a young child, Daniel Coughlan showed some signs of ADHD, but when his head and hands started jerking, his mum Tracy realised there was something more and sought help. Daniel was diagnosed with Tourette's syndrome at the age of 9, and for both him and his family, it's been hard to adjust.
It began about 3 years ago when Daniel started showing what we thought were just nervous twitches or bad habits he was picking up, and he was nodding a lot and blinking a lot. They got a bit more, developed more over the summer, and he developed some hand twitches where his hands would jerk voluntarily, and we went back to the doctor then, and he referred us to doctors up in Cork in the Mercy Hospital, and they then did a lot of tests, such as they did an MRI and EEG and different blood tests to rule out anything wrong with the brain or anything like that, and then it was suggested about Tourette's. For Tourette's to be diagnosed, the kids must have motor and vocal tics for more than 12 months, and they must have, they can come and go at different times, so there can't be a break of more than 3 months in that 12 months to get a diagnosis. Basically, we were told to go and look it up.
And both Tracy and Daniel join us now. You're both very welcome to the morning show, and thank you for coming in. Tracy, when you're told to go and source the information yourself, you're going to go to the internet, which presents its own problems, because at the best of times you get the worst case scenarios thrown at you. Is that what happened with you?
It is, yeah. We were told to go and try and educate ourselves as much as we could about Tourette's, and when we went looking then, there's very little available in Ireland information-wise, so we were redirected the whole time towards America and the UK, and the most popular side of Tourette's that's known is the more extreme side, so that's what kept showing up for us.
Of course, the misconception about Tourette's is that it's all to do with swearing and blurting out these expressions, and generally completely out of context. But that's just a small part of it.
It is. It's only a fraction of people who have Tourette's that have that side of it, and a lot of people who have Tourette's, you wouldn't even know that they do have it, that their tics would be fairly mild, and it just varies from person to person, really.
You say it varies from person to person, but generally it affects boys.
It affects both, but it seems to be more predominant in boys. And
comes on in and around the age that it started with Daniel?
Yeah.
Like 5, 6 and up to about what age?
It's generally between the ages about 5 to 11 would be the most common age.
I'm told that between 10 and 11 that can be the worst time.
Yeah, it is.
So the last couple of years have been pretty bad?
Yeah.
Okay, how bad have the tics got for Daniel?
Daniel's tics they've developed over the years, and in the past couple of years his tics have started to hurt him, whereas some of his tics where his head is jerking and he's hurted his neck, or his jaw has hurt a lot. He bites hard for one of his tics, and we've noticed what he started to do when we're out in public, that he kind of holds in his tics, and you can see he's getting a little bit agitation, frustration, and then when we go home or in the car, it's like a release, and his whole body can jerk when he's sitting down or just relaxing.
It can be. It's frustrating for you to watch as a mom.
It is.
And it's pretty frustrating for you, Daniel, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Because across a day, you can have movements how often?
Well, I have them mostly maybe it's mostly after school. I haven't.
Okay. And when you're at school, how has school been for you?
It's been okay. I guess it's hard to concentrate, and I guess kind of when I could get bored, it's hard to sit down on the chairs, and it's hard to concentrate.
Did the teachers make allowances for that? If you need to stand, or if you need to
Yeah,
move
sometimes during the day I used to just go for a walk or something, and I come back then.
What about your classmates and the people in the school? How do they react when you have?
When I first had it, they kind of reacted weird, but then they kind of got used to it, and they know now what it is. And
are they a bit more understanding?
Yeah, they kind
of. But I can imagine that there are times when there are things being said
yes.
that aren't quite nice.
No.
And how do you react when that happens?
Well, I don't really mind, because I'm kind of used to it now from people saying it to me, but
just because you're used to it doesn't mean it's right.
no.
And do you ever talk to them about that? Do you ever say, listen, hang on a minute, give me a break?
Yes.
Do you think I want to do this?
Sometimes, yeah.
That must be tough for you, especially when Daniel's coming home from school, or he's been out playing football, and he tells you that, or he's visibly upset because some name calling's been going on.
It is, it's hard. I mean, when he's coming home from school in tears or upset that somebody has said something to him, or that he's been out playing or whatever, and somebody has said something to him, and it's awful. I mean, even when we go to town and you're shopping, like, adults there, kids will come up and say things to you, and they'll actually ask what's wrong or why is he doing that, which is grand, because you can say, oh, you can explain it to him what it is, but adults will just stand there and stare, you know, and you'd nearly prefer that they came up and said, why is your child doing that, so you could explain, you know. And people with Tourette's get very down and get very low because of, like, there's such little understanding out there that obviously people don't know, and they, when they are stared at or there's things said, that they do get very low, and self-confidence and self-esteem would be very low generally in people with Tourette's.
So what do you do to keep Daniel's self-esteem and self-confidence at a good level?
Well, we've always kind of told Daniel, you know, that it's not that he's different than anybody else, you know, he's not the odd one out, or he's just Daniel, you know, and yeah, he ticks and he does things differently to other people, but like we've explained to him, other people have different things going on, and like there's other kids in his school, one has autism, and they've had a little girl in their school with Down syndrome, so their school is very accepting that way. Yeah. So for Daniel then, we say we try to get him into hobbies and things where he likes, and Daniel does scouts, which is great. He has a lot of friends in that.
And I've heard a fair bit in the last while about Alfie and Snowy. They're your ponies, and you have a great love for them.
Yeah.
How often do you go and see Snowy and Alfie?
Well, during the day they're around my dad's house and they're grazing there, but I usually ride them on a Sunday, and my cousin rides Snowy.
Okay.
My cousin Brian.
Okay. How do you react when people are staring at you?
It's kind of hard to explain, but sometimes I explain it to them, and sometimes I just kind of walk away, or
Do you get fed up having to explain it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It's a neurological problem.
It is. Yeah.
So, do you treat it? Can you cure it?
There is no cure for Tourette's. It can be treated if the tics get to a stage where it's affecting your quality of everyday life. Thankfully, Daniel's hasn't got to that, because the medication used is to bring you down, to keep you kind of low, so that you're not in that kind of agitated state where you will tic all the time, and it's preferable that they're not on medication, you know. So we've been lucky that way, but there is no cure, and nobody knows how long it will last for. Will it get worse as they get older? Will it get better?
Well, you hear stories that as people go on in their teenage years, it becomes less and less and less. But those teenage years are very, very important years, and they're formative, and you'll develop your own sense of self during that time. So it's for you then to try and keep him up, and that's hard.
And that's at the moment that's what we're like. That's our constant battle the whole time. It's to keep Daniel feeling that. Keep him up from feeling that low that he has had, you know, and
we need a better understanding of
tics
and Tourette's.
Definitely. I mean, even myself, I mean, we've looked into it as much as we can over the past few years, but I'd love for somebody to sit down with us and say exactly this is what Tourette's is, and even for Daniel, I mean, we've at the moment what we're trying to do is to raise awareness and to try and get in contact with more people with Tourette's. Like over the past 3 years we've been trying to meet people, and only as recently as March we've met one other boy with Tourette's, Daniel's age, which is great. It's been good for Daniel to know that there's more people out there, and recently we've been in contact with somebody else, but they're up the north.
Right.
So hopefully now we'll get a few more people around our own area.
Which is between East Cork and Waterford. Yeah, because I'm sure there's lots of questions that you'd like to ask somebody who's got a similar condition. I'm sure they'd be very keen to ask you questions too.
Yeah.
Just an opportunity to understand and share things. Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure meeting you today, and I know you've got time off school, so it's not like we managed to cop a few hours off you. But thank you for coming in to talk to us.
Welcome.
And give our regards to Alfie and to Snowy, and when you get to see them again. And Tracy, is there any particular message that you would like to give out before we say goodbye?
Just to let people know that there are people out there with Tourette's we're looking to give support and looking for others to give us support back. You know, that don't be alone. You know, there are others out there. And
we've had your Facebook up on screen, so if people want to get in touch with you if they have children who have tics and Tourette's.
Exactly.
You can form your own support group.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping to do.
Okay. Well, let's hope it works.
Thanks very much.
We thank you very much, both of you, for coming in to talk to us.